Welcome to Crossmen Live, the series. I'm Jack Brennicky.
And I'm Josh Sears. Today we've got a lot going on. There's a great auction going on right now. You can go to crossmen.org/auction. There's 60 or so items that you can bid on.
This is what it's going to look like if you go over to crossmen.org/auction. Nicely designed graphics here in Crossmen colors. Scroll down to this red button, Go to Auction. Click on that. The gears are going to turn. And the next thing you know, there we are, bidding for bones. Now, there's a couple things I'd like to point out to you. First of all, the time has been extended to 7 p.m. Central Time. It was going to be 3:30, but in case you're having a busy Saturday now, you can spend the time, well, actually, you can spend the time watching the rest of our show, which would be nice, and then head on over to bidding for bones. So you've got that option now. They made that change Thursday night. I believe they put out a post, and they made it, and then Friday morning it showed up here on the site. You have to register in order to bid. However, you can go in there and browse. Click on the browse button and scroll down. And you got all this good stuff here. Some of them are sold out already, but there's still plenty more. So just keep scrolling down. Bid on a couple different things. You never know. You might win one. You might not get the other one, but bid on 3 things. So anyway, so let's get back to our show. And Josh has put together a nice show about the 2007 season. And back to you, Josh.
So if you haven't checked it out, go over there, take a look at the items, bid on something. A lot of great stuff there to look at. And then today, we're also going to be talking about the move to Texas, the 2007 show, and transition from Pennsylvania down to Texas. One of the things that makes Crossmen very unique is we are a corps that has moved over 2,000 miles to a completely new hometown, and it's been extremely successful. But that didn't come without its own initial concerns among the alumni base when the move was first announced in the fall of 2006. So, Jack, can you tell us about some of the initial alumni reaction?
Yeah, well, I mean, we were a little bit used to the Corps moving around up here because the Corps was originally from Delaware County, and then it moved up to Allentown for a bit. Actually, I'm wrong. It moved to Delaware and then up to Allentown. So the Corps had been bouncing around the area up here a bit for most of its early history. When the Corps announced that it was moving to Texas, it was pretty shocking, and a lot of the alumni just they didn't know what to say. Well, some people did know what to say, and it wasn't necessarily all good, but cooler heads prevailed, and we did meet. Scott Litzenberg was band director at Unionville High School at the time, and he allowed us to use his school to get together, and we kind of hashed it out there.
Yep, and Scott Litzenberg was the corps director at that point in time when the announcement was made. He was the director for 2006 and when the move happened. And so let's hear what Scott has to say.
Hey, this is Scott Litzenberg again. 2006 was quite an interesting adventure for this drum corps. I was asked to come back. At that point, Crossmen were part of YEA, and George called me in early fall in 2005 and asked me if I'd be willing to take over the drum corps following Larry Markevich. I was very honored to do that. The way things worked at YEA, the way that team was set up was very, very strong. Had great help there with Tiffany and Meg and Deb and just the whole team that really worked hard to get that drum corps down the road that year. The way the summer ended, and who knew that by Labor Day weekend, this drum corps was no longer going to be from Pennsylvania and was going to be heading down to the state of Texas. And at the time that happened, we met the week after that announcement was made, a bunch of alumni and members at Unionville High School. And I brought up and said, this probably could be one of the best things to ever happen to this drum corps. Little did we know how lucky we are to have this drum corps down in the great state of Texas. So thank you very much, and look forward to hearing some more great stories about the Crossmen.
Just like with any year, any drum corps, you always have some good and bad things. The bad thing to me from 2007 was the crickets. Ugh, I'm not good with places or anything like that, but when it comes to the crickets, I remember the gym, what it looked like. It just gives me the heebie-jeebies still thinking about those crickets. Oh my goodness. Whew. But the good thing from 2007 was all the amazing vets and rookies that I got to age out with. It was a very special year that I personally took for granted. And I wish I could go back to my 20-year-old self and do things over again. But I am so blessed to have been with the Crossmen for 4 years, and they're my family. And words just can't explain what it's like to be a Crossman except grateful. I am so grateful that Crossman gave me a home for 4 years. I'm so grateful for all the amazing men and women that I have had the privilege and honor to spend with and march next to. And a lot of them are such great friends. So thank you, Crossmen, for everything you have done for me and for all of us other alumni and current members. We love you.
Hi, I'm Katie McGee. I marched Crossmen from 2004 to 2007. I came to the Crossmen kind of by accident. I had marched Jersey Surf the year before, and I had a friend who was going to an audition camp for the Crossmen, and he said, you should come along. And so I thought, this would be a great experience, and so let me go along. And so I ended up actually getting offered a spot for that summer, which was super exciting. And I remember watching the age out ceremony that summer and just knowing that I was going to sign that flag and I was going to be part of that family. So fast forward to 2007, my age out year, there was rumors that the Crossmen were being sold, and we were all trying to figure out where. We heard maybe Virginia, maybe Texas, and so I was just hoping that it would be somewhere where I could drive. I didn't think that I'd be able to afford the flights and the tour fees. So then when it came out to be Texas, I was a little heartbroken. I didn't know what I was going to do. And so I started thinking, well, maybe I'll try out for a different corps, but that didn't feel right. Maybe I wouldn't march my age out, but that also broke my heart. So I ended up deciding to take some time off from school and to work full time so that I could afford the flights to Texas and the tour fees. That summer was a really tough summer. There was a lot of growing pains and transition, but I was proud to be there and to finish out that summer. So I was able to sign that age out flag and to age out with the Crossmen and complete my journey.
But my initial thought was, what? it was kind of a shock. I was like, is that really happening, kind of thing? So it was kind of somewhat relieving in that aspect because it's something new and different, and maybe not under that same umbrella that we were always used to, but it was also kind of scary because, like, oh crap, what's going to happen? This is completely different for us. Is the Corps going to go down there and fold after a year or two, or like, what's this going to look like, kind of thing? Granted, it was my last year, so it didn't really affect me past like that year, but you still want the longevity of the Corps to be there and be consistent, So what did I think? I was nervous doing something different. I didn't know what that was going to look like. I said that one of the big draws for me was the camaraderie between everybody, and I was kind of thinking like, how many people are going to go down there? Like, am I really going to know that many people? Not really know them, but you know, are they going to be kind of different people down there? There's not going to be as many vets. You know, is it going to be as comfortable for me? I guess not the drum corps is comfortable, but you know, is it going to be that same kind of family vibe, or is it just going to be something completely different? Mainly from like the Contra side of things, like bringing some of the old stories back, and like we have a big Contra flag, as you know, making sure that got passed on to the next group, so that, you know, it wasn't just some new core kind of thing, so that our traditions kept going. So we were real big on, you know, explaining what the dog chains meant, and like explaining those traditions, and really kind of trying to bring those old stories back, and really make sure that they keep those alive. And I still tried to do that even after I aged out too. You know, I kept going back to the Allentown shows, and not just Allentown, but a few others. But you know, I kept doing the dog chain thing for quite a bunch of years, and just still try to keep touch, and, you know, keep those traditions alive. And I think that was important, so that the Corps still has an identity. I keep coming back to 07. It was a rough year. Once we got past, you know, being there, it was a rough year, doing a whole different style, a whole different thing. And I think we were still like sort of maybe expecting, okay, this is going to be something new. Are we going to get back into finals with this whole thing? So it was really, I kind of struggled with that about halfway through the season. And I really kind of turned to our leadership, you know, in our drum majors, Jarrett, and more so with Daryl. And he really kind of sat me down and kind of looked at me and said, get your stuff together. So that really kind of resonated with me even afterwards, that conversation that I had with Daryl. And he probably didn't remember that, but he just kind of sat me down and said, get your stuff together. It's a bigger picture than, you know, what you're focusing on. And that really kind of helped me.
When Jarrett Libby called me on my birthday in September of 2006 to tell me that the Crossmen were moving to Texas, like many of you, I was completely floored and shocked. I was a little extra stressed knowing that in a short period of time I had to make a decision, because it was my age out summer. So I weighed my options. I looked into some other drum corps, but I quickly decided that with the challenge that the Crossmen were facing, it was going to be unlike any other that any drum corps had faced, that there would really be no more meaningful way that I could give back than to come back with the great vet and age out class we had in 2007 and help preserve the identity of the Crossmen going into that first year. We knew that the success or failure of 2007 was really going to be on us, and we took that charge very, very seriously. Thinking about my time in drum corps, I've been involved every year between DCA and DCI since 2002. And the thing that keeps me coming back year after year is not the time on the field so much, but the family that you become a part of. And the resiliency that the Crossmen have had in the last 45 years, it's not only a reflection of the talent that the Crossmen attract every year, not only the members, but the staff and the administration, but our relationship with our alumni is very, very special. And every time a challenge has come up in our history, we faced it head on, and we've persevered.
Hi, my name is Anthony Burnham, and I marched baritone and euphonium from 2006 to 2008, and was on the visual staff in 2009. I remember in the fall of 2006 getting an email talking about how the Corps was moving down to Texas. And I knew this was going to be a challenge for the Corps, given its established history on the East Coast. And the Corps has a history of overcoming these obstacles. And so with this move down to Texas, I knew that I had to do my part to try and continue that legacy for the next generation. And so the vets really took that charge seriously, and we did our best to try and lead by example and to show the new members what it meant to be a Crossman. And I think as a Corps, we grew a lot that summer, and we had a lot of challenges that were before us, and in true Crossman fashion, we didn't let it stop us. Not the mountains in California or broken bus windows in infamous Sevierville, Tennessee. And one thing I've learned after all these years is that the friendships and memories really do last a lifetime. Even if you're horrible at keeping in touch, You can still reconnect over a decade later and not miss a beat, and have these stories and relive some of the more memorable moments from tour. And so your support will help keep this core, this activity, and this legacy alive for future generations. And so support the Crossmen family and protect that legacy. Thank you.
Hi, my name's Jamie Tucker, and I marched in the Crossmen from 2003 through 2007 in the horn line. I was a member of the contra section, the euphonium and baritone section, and aged out as the horn sergeant in '07. I remember receiving the news in the fall of 2006 that the Corps was moving to Texas in a kind of an odd way. I had walked into the music building in college, and one of my friends that marched in the Colts approached me and said, "Hey, I heard you guys are going to Texas," and I had no clue what he was talking about. I promptly made some phone calls and found out that we were in fact moving to Texas, and talk about the biggest shock I think I had had in my drum corps career until that time. I immediately got hold of my roommate, Anthony, who was also marching in the Crossmen at the time, and we got to talking, and we're trying to figure out what we're going to do. And all I can think of is that, I had spent 4 years with the drum corps, and now all of a sudden it was going to be uprooted from its Pennsylvania home and going to Texas. And, for me, having spent those 4 years, I never imagined that would happen. However, there was also really no other choice of what was going to take place. That the move had to happen for me. I had to age out with the Crossmen. I made some promises to myself and the people that I'd marched with that I would finish out my time at the Crossmen. So we hopped in the car. The first camp down there was in November, and Anthony and I drove the 20 plus hours from Lincoln, Nebraska, all the way down to San Antonio, and talk about a whirlwind experience that first weekend. I think that was the most in a haze I remember ever being during camp, with the exception of maybe that first camp in 2003 when I was auditioning. There was so much new. Hardly any vets. There was only a few of us. There were some welcome sights to see Aaron Goldberg and a couple other people there, but there was really no one there. And we immediately knew that we had a building project and that we were going to have to make something happen. So we got home, made some phone calls, and just started recruiting people to come down to Texas with the Corps. And slowly, by the end of the camp season in May, we had brought down at least 30 vets between the horn line, the guard, and the drum line. And really, our main goal was to make sure that what we had known as the Crossmen would continue on, not just in 2007, but years after us. That was one of the most, if not the most challenging drum corps seasons I ever had. My body did not react well to what we were trying to do. It was wearing out, broken, abused, and then on top of that, we had some really hard drill and music that we were trying to pull off with a pretty inexperienced drum corps. And all of the vets, we suffered some pretty major injuries throughout the season and really wondered if we were going to make it there. But I think back to that time, and while it was definitely a lower placement than ever we wanted competitively, and there was a lot of challenges with teaching people how to do drum corps, it was really just a gratifying experience knowing that we were part of something much bigger than ourselves. And it was not just about ourselves and what we personally wanted out of our age out season or our whatever season it was for the vets. It was more about the longevity of the drum corps and protecting the legacy of, at that time, 33 years of Crossmen. And now we're on year 46 and things are going great in Texas. I know there was a lot of scared vets and alumni and people that lost chances to march with the move and hesitation to go to Texas and to really buy into what they were trying to do. But in the long run, this has proven to be the best thing. And we're really proud of, as alumni, of what the Corps has done. I think of some of the memories from that season and how hard I pushed and how hard I worked and the friendships I made that would never have happened. And I'm really, really glad that I took that chance and went down to Texas for my age out. 5 years in the drum corps, all 5 very different. But it's cool to say that I was part of that first Texas Corps, and that I've been able to watch it grow from that year. So yeah, that's basically the extent. I mean, there's a lot of stories and a lot of things that went into that season that are behind the scenes, and there were a lot of people that made sure that things continued for us and that we had a corps to go to. So while the move was tough, the alternative would have been worse, and we're very grateful that the corps didn't fold. And me personally, I'd like to thank Mark and Fred and Maureen for all they did for us that first year down there. I'd like to thank Aaron Goldberg for coming in and being there for us and helping the vets through the transition, making sure that we were doing the right things. And just to the rest of the vets that all decided to make that move. I know that in November I was pretty scared. I thought there was only going to be about 10 of us, maybe even less. And you guys kept coming and coming and coming. And so I'm very grateful for that experience with the Crossmen 2007.
My name is Andrea Reedy. I marched in the color guard from 2005 through my age out in 2007. So I was one of the Northeast ambassadors. I think that's what we used to call ourselves a few years later. And I wanted to talk about what it was like when we all found out about the move to Texas. I can't actually remember where I was or who I heard it from. I just mostly remember feeling nervous, worried about what it was going to be like. I was worried it wouldn't feel like Crossmen anymore. I was worried they weren't going to care about our traditions anymore. And I was worried about where my friends were going to go. I just wanted to share something about what it was like to age out in 2007, especially being from the Northeast Corps and then aging out in the Texas Corps. I found a journal entry about how I felt when we first heard about the news, and I wanted to share something with you from that. I had said that ever since I first heard the news about a week ago, I just keep seeing the faces of the people I was supposed to age out with. There's so much unknown right now, but it's a pretty good bet that not all of those people will be there. I was meant to share my last year with Jarrett, Amy, Caitlin, Grant, Jamie, Jesse, Vinny, etc. And it breaks my heart knowing that that just isn't going to happen. The funny thing is, I couldn't have been more wrong. All of those people and more were there for my age out. I always kind of felt like our age out class was special, but maybe everybody feels that way about their own age out class. But I always thought we had some pretty key people. And to all of my fellow 2007 age outs, both rookies and vets, I've always been very proud to have shared the field with you.
2007 was a very important year for the Crossmen because it's the year the Corps moved down to Texas. Now, for those of us who had been involved with the East Coast iteration of the Crossmen, we were a little scared, a little nervous, a little worried that the Crossmen would change when it moved to Texas. But I also recall a feeling amongst alumni and people who had been involved with the Corps that something different did need to happen in order for the Corps to start to do better. And sometimes a breath of fresh air is exactly what's needed. Obviously, Fred and Maureen Morrison did so much to get the Corps down there and situated. Mark Chambers was our new Corps director. Aaron Guidry was show designer for the first of 4 years. Rick Villarreal was brass caption head. Roland Chavez was our percussion caption head. Mark Sylvester wrote the drill. And myself and the great Al Chez were the only 2 East Coast staff members who were invited to come down to Texas. And to this day, that just means so, so much. The first camp for 2007 actually occurred at Pennsville, New Jersey. Some of the guys, Mark Chambers and Rick Villarreal and Roland Chavez, they came up, and we actually had a camp up there, and I thought that was just like a great extension of the olive branch. It really, I think, started to calm people down to see the sort of cross-pollination that was about to start happening. And then the rest of our camps were at Ronald Reagan High School in San Antonio. Spring training was at the Blossom Athletic Center in San Antonio, and I remember walking into that place thinking, oh my goodness, this has to be the best spring training facility in the entire nation, especially, we had just been living in like leaky cabins in upstate New York for the last couple of years. So Blossom was like the real deal. More and more people started to jump into the pool in 2007 after the initial splashdown in Texas. I remember that first camp, it was me, Al Chez, and maybe a handful of East Coast vets. I want to say like in the single digits, if I'm recalling correctly. But then at the next camp, there were more people from the East Coast that had come down. And at the next camp, there were even more. And there was a general feeling amongst the East Coast vets that they wanted to continue to be a part of the Crossmen and to help sort of bridge things. That was very important to all of us. I even remember hearing of one East Coast vet who dropped out of college just so he could afford to march in 07 so he could be a part of the transition. And then I think he ended up going back to school the next year. There were some pedagogical differences for sure. And it might have been a little rough at the start, but all of us respected each other, and we all knew, both the Texas connection and the East Coasters that had come down, that we all want this to be okay. So we got to work together. We got to be one. We got to be unified. And there was a general feeling, at least I recall throughout the entire season, that even if we weren't doing well in 07, which we weren't, but it was all about sort of learning, not necessarily growing at that point. There was a general feeling that, look, we're here to stay. The core is probably going to remain in San Antonio going forward, and things will probably work out. There was a general feeling of it may not be okay right now, but we know it's all gonna be okay in the future. We dropped to 16th place that year, and on finals day, I asked Fred Morrison for a shot to be brass caption head the next year because I knew I could do a good job with it. And Fred gave me that shot, and I'm still very, very thankful for that opportunity.
So that was a lot of interesting perspective from the vets and from Aaron Goldberg. Josh, you were a rookie in 07, correct?
Yep. It was my first year, but interestingly, I was also from Virginia, one of the non-Texas rookies that year. So one thing Aaron talked about in the camp in the Northeast still having that camp was the reason I was able to march. And if it weren't for those decisions, I mean, I never would have marched 2007. And initially that camp wasn't going to be held. When the move announcement first happened, the only audition camp was Thanksgiving weekend in San Antonio. And then it wasn't until 3 or 4 weeks later that they made an announcement saying, because people had already registered and paid camp fees for this camp in New Jersey, we're going to still hold that camp. And it was great that Aaron Goldberg and Mark Chambers were at that camp, as well as a handful of other vets from Crossmen. So it was a combined cadets and Crossmen camp still, but it was a way to be able to still have people who had already expressed interest in wanting to audition for Crossmen have that opportunity.
Interesting. Well, we have Aaron Goldberg and Taylor Jenkins coming up with a staff spotlight next. So take it away, Aaron and Taylor.
Hi, I'm Taylor Jenkins, and I marched in the Crossmen horn line as a euphonium and baritone player from 1998 to 2002 when I aged out. After a couple of years off, I came back in 2005 as a visual staff member, and then I was tour administration in 2006, and from 2007 to 2011, I co-managed the merchandise trailer.
And hi, I'm Aaron Goldberg. I marched with Taylor in the Crossmen in 1998, took 99 off, and marched 2000 and 2001 in the lead baritone line. I was soloist both of those years. Aged out in 2001, taught the baritone line on brass staff from 2002 to 2007, including being part of the move to Texas in 2007. And then I was the brass caption head in 2008, 9, 10. I'm also a proud inductee of the 2019 Crossmen Hall of Fame.
Together each month, we interview Crossmen staff from the past and the present.
And we are excited to bring you a new guest every month. Enjoy and go Bones.
Mike, what is your background in drum corps and in the Crossmen? And also, what is your background with nonprofit organizations?
Well, I actually started teaching drum corps in the late 80s with the Glassman Drum and Bugle Corps out of Toledo. I spent many years there and was there for their climb. I have a lot of pride in the fact that I was there when the Corps was 23rd, and I was there when the Corps broke into the top 12, and all through their climb. I think that that's the true mark, is being there to do the tough work. And I put in a lot of time. I'm very proud of the members that I educated then. They've become very close friends of mine. I took some time away from drum corps, and in 2014, I received a phone call from Ed Devlin asking me if I would like to be on the design team of the Crossmen Drum and Bugle Corps. And I think he was surprised when I just didn't jump on it and say yes right away. I needed to make sure that I had all my ducks in a row. I was perfectly prepared to take this on, because you don't want to say yes and then fall short on the side of and not give the members what they deserved. We went into it knowing I was going to be there for 3 years. I was there for 14, 15, and 16. 3 fabulous years for the Corps, where we established our presence back in the top 12. And hopefully I left a really good mark there. Then this year, in 2020, when the whole world went a little weird, things got a little crazy, the Crossmen were searching for someone with specific backgrounds that were not necessarily conducive to what people thought the drum corps responsibilities were. And my background is not only in education. I went to Ball State for elementary education, and I just happened to be lucky enough to serve the members of the Crossmen, the design team, but I've got 2 decades of nonprofit experience. So it was the perfect storm for me to be able to come in, give my talents, and carry us over the bridge from one season to another.
What is your current role with the Crossmen, and are there any initiatives that you'd like to mention or promote that the Crossmen organization are currently working on?
Yeah, my current role is interim director. I took the position knowing that I wasn't going to hold it forever. The Crossmen really need to find a core director that's going to be there for a full decade. So I stepped in knowing that there was already an exit plan, redoing the structure, and then kind of stepping back and watching it as it happens. I will be with the Crossmen for years to come. I will serve in this position until the end of the 2020 season, whatever that looks like. A lot of corps right now aren't taking advantage of the downtime, where the Crossmen, we're fully wrapping ourselves around the opportunity to redo some things and really pay a lot of attention to things that might have been pushed to the side. There was a good foundation there, but you could always make your member experience better. So we reached out, asking the members to tell us what they wanted from the drum corps, what they expected from the experience. That was first and foremost. And we took a lot of time letting them develop what the member experience will be. But we've also spent extra time right now on our inclusion policy, making sure that can be better with every single drum corps. We could always be better at that. Hopefully every drum corps strives to be better at that all the time. And then just how we do business, how the admin has responsibilities and what responsibilities are, be very specific about that. So we're really taking the time right now to build something solid, because we may not be able to revisit it. So instead of just pouting with our arms crossed and being miserable, we're like, this is a great opportunity. We can really dig in and pay attention to the things that really matter, the things that affect the membership and the alumni in the future.
When people think of drum corps, oftentimes they think of the performers on the field. And obviously we know that it takes, an army of people behind the scenes, not just from the staff or faculty teaching these members, designers, obviously all the administration and drivers and cooks, staff and everything, but volunteers, really make the world go round. What have volunteers contributed to the Crossmen in the past, and what vision might you have for volunteerism within the Corps for the future?
Well, I was actually really excited about tackling this at the Crossmen and making it even better. Part of my specialties with the nonprofit is going out and recruiting volunteers, then training those volunteers to take on maybe even more responsibilities than they originally thought they were going to. And then in turn, they would recruit more volunteers. Volunteerism is a great pyramid scheme when it comes right down to it. You get one person, get them fully involved, get them to understand the message, and then they can in turn pass the message on to their friends. It just keeps going and going and going. Something that's unique to the Crossmen is we have an alumni base that's in Pennsylvania. It's 3,000 miles from where the Corps sits right now and where we call home. So those people volunteering for something that is way down in San Antonio is just incredible. They take care of us when we go to the East Coast. Allentown is kind of our homecoming. So we're really trying to make sure that as many volunteers as we can get to feel the same passion that we do, get involved. And then make sure that they stay involved. It can't just be that they're the people who are working the fundraising. They're the people who are feeding the members in the morning. The volunteers have to feel like they are a part, and they are. The best feeling I get is when I can turn around in the stands for the final run of the night and see the volunteers have made it in, because that's their pay. The member experience is their pay. That's what they get for it. So by making them feel included and helping them understand that they are an integral part, not just a small part, but an integral part of that youth experience, it's going to keep them coming back for years to come. So we're spending a lot of time. We're doing a lot more coordination of those volunteers so that they can come in with one skill set, learn more skill sets, and continue to serve the members.
All right, thanks, Mike.
Thanks, Taylor. Thanks, Aaron.
Bye-bye.
The Crossmen have all of our instruments for sale. Brass, percussion, electronics, podiums, props, and much more. We can help you or your school with anything you may need. Reach out to us via email, sales@crossmen.org.
Hello, my name is Eugenio Castellanos Jr., and I had the privilege of marching Crossmen 2007, 8, 9, and 10. I was born and raised in the Rio Grande Valley, South Texas, so having a Div 1 drum corps move to Texas was huge, especially for the community that I grew up in. Never before had we had such ease of access to a Division 1 or world-class drum corps before that day. So it kind of opened some pathways for us. I remember being young and thinking that I would never have the opportunity to participate in the drum corps activity just because all the major corps were either in the West Coast or up northeast or central United States. So having Crossmen come down made it accessible for me and others like me to participate in this great organization. One of the things I'll never forget is my first day with the Crossmen. After completing my audition, I remember meeting Assistant Drum Major Garrett Dillon and him being really nice, at least at first, meeting me and taking me out to the rehearsal block, which was at the parking lot behind the stadium at Blossom. I remember being petrified, going to meet all these people and seeing just this huge ensemble of brass and thinking, wow, I get to be a part of this. I remember meeting my section leaders, Rob Ney and Jesse Pitzer, and they seemed very intimidating at the time, but they're very welcoming, and it was nice. I remember Rob placing me closer to his side of the arc, and he was just like, all right, just do what I do and, do your part and everything will be fine. And so we started. One of the best parts of the 07 season, for me anyways, was working with the staff that we had. And before that point, I had never worked with someone or a group of people that were so passionate about what they were doing. Some of the staff members marched Crossmen previously, And because of their positive experiences, they gave back by, joining the team in a teaching capacity or in a administrative capacity. And seeing that passion and that love for this organization is something that slowly grew in me and throughout other members as well over time, and encouraged us to want to continue to be a part of it. And it was such a wonderful thing. One of my fondest memories from that 2007 season was actually from after the season had ended. I had made the mistake of booking a flight 2 days after finals night. So I have to figure out a way to kind of exist in California for a couple days. And I remember talking to my parents on the phone about it, and one of my section members, Conrad, he kind of overheard me, and him being from California, without hesitation said, "Hey, you can come stay with me." And I remember being so relieved and thinking that I wouldn't have to kind of scrounge around for a couple days on my own. And also thinking that it's amazing that this person that I've only known for a couple months is so comfortable with me, and I was so comfortable with him, that without hesitation he was there to help me when I needed it. And that's just a testament to the experiences that we shared together on tour and the experiences we shared together as members of the Crossmen. And it was in that moment that I kind of took a step back and said, there's something very special going on here, and I would love to continue to be a part of it.
Hi, my name is Andrew Prezzello. I was a member of the Crossmen front ensemble from 2007 to 2008. My first time seeing the Crossmen was in 2003 when they stayed at my high school in Bay St. Louis, Mississippi. That show got me started with drum corps and got me started with the Crossmen. In fact, the very next summer, I went and marched Memphis Sound Drum and Bugle Corps in 2004. I took 2 summers off in 05 and 06, which included a move to Maryland. But by the spring of 06 and really in the summer, I was ready to jump back in the drum corps. And being that I had just moved to the East Coast, I decided to audition for the Crossmen, only to find out that they were going to move to Texas. I went to an audition camp with the cadets on the East Coast, and ended up flying down to Crossmen in San Antonio to audition. I went through all of the spring camps and ended up getting a spot, and it was one of the best feelings I've had, at least up to that point. From there, I went through the summer. The summer had its ups and downs. I was in a weird place being an East Coast rookie, as most of the rookies came out of Texas, and most of the vets were coming from the East Coast. But the East Coast vets were awesome. I can remember flying down out of BWI with many of them, and them being very, very supportive. And it was just very, very cool. Some of the highlights from 07 have to be probably my first time experiencing Allentown with the Crossmen. Even though Allentown was the first regional of the season, so that was super weird as the regionals were kind of flipped that year. It was still a very neat experience. And then experiencing the very first home show for Crossmen in San Antonio was also very cool. From there, obviously our home show our housing site in Pasadena for finals, having that pool was pretty neat. And just being out in the Rose Bowl, and for me personally, my aunt who lived in LA and my 2 young cousins at the time, and my grandmother were able to come out and see us perform. So that meant a lot to me. But from the core perspective, I really felt like 07 was building something not only in Texas, but just building upon the Crossmen history. And I'm really, in retrospect, I'm very happy to be a part of that history and a part of that growth that came out of 2007. When it came down to my age out year in 2008, there wasn't really a decision. I knew I was going to come back to the Crossmen. I knew that that's where I wanted to age out, and just knowing that that's where I wanted to be. I'm forever grateful to the Crossmen and very happy to be a part of this organization.
My name is Jared Kidd of March 2007. I'm originally from Texas, so it was pretty exciting whenever a Division I Corps moved to Texas. I had marched Division III with Revolution in 2005, also based out of San Antonio. Worked 2006, had all intentions to march somewhere in age out 2007, so technically rooked out with Crossmen. But man, I wasn't able to afford flying to camps. So whenever Crossmen moved to Texas, I'd made that drive before to San Antonio, so that was a no-brainer for me. To be fair, didn't know a lot about them to start with, so got down there, did auditions, did all that kind of stuff, and got in, started learning the history, and could not have been more excited to be part of the group I was with. Just the history of the origination of the Corps, how it came together, the traditions they had, the obstacles they faced, all that kind of stuff. They just kept on going since the 70s was incredible. So I kind of lucked into it, and I loved it. Everyone I marched with was amazing, so I just really enjoyed my time there. One thing I really appreciated about the vets that came down from the Northeast is the fact that they came down from the Northeast. I know that whenever they found out that Crossmen moved, that was a big shock to their systems. Some of these guys had marched 4 or 5 years at a corps down the street. So to get up and go halfway across the country was pretty terrifying, I would think. So the fact that they stuck with it, came down, taught us the ways, kept the traditions alive. I'm very grateful to those guys. That was an incredibly, just amazing thing for them to just, again, pack up and come halfway down, across the country to do that.
It would be good to do a show that really had to do with what was going on in the Corps. And I really like personalizing the product that you're working with. I like it when everyone can relate to what it is the show is about. And I knew that this was something all of us could relate to. Everyone in the Corps, whether you're a vet or you're a rookie or you're admin or you're a volunteer or whatever. And so it had to do with change. I've always enjoyed the piece Symphonic Metamorphosis by Hindemith. It's a very well-known work of music, and that's what that piece of music is about. He takes melodies and they go through a metamorphosis, so to speak, and it actually incorporates a little bit of a jazz feel, and the Crossmen had jazz past in history, and all of those things were in my mind, and I called Aaron Guidry, who writes our music, talked to him about it. He thought it was a great idea. Talked to Mark Sylvester, who also really liked the concept of metamorphosis. So we went with it.
Because of the history, I really loved the pre-show, the cape routine, and just all of the nostalgia that comes with it, the bones.
I like the capes. That's the beginning. I think it's cool. So it's an eerie mood and everything.
It's a big hype. A lot of people love it, and it's really exciting. And it's really cool when you get the entire audience going woo in the first 8 counts of the show. So it's pretty cool.
In Metal 1, the stars at night, because I'm from Texas, so that, and then it goes to the Russian hit, and that's where the whole crowd gets up and starts cheering.
The first hit of Metal 1, the Russian Christmas music hit, I'm not even a huge fan of the actual piece Russian Christmas, but the fact that it has represented the Corps for so many different times throughout the last few decades, to have that as our first impact, and to be in a company front, the original effect of drum corps, and to just horns are just giving it their all, and color guards doing that old work, and it's just great. It is just a moment, and it embodies sort of that entertainment vibe of drum corps obviously going way back, and the crowd gives it up every night.
Probably the riff, sometimes known as the blow. I love it. It's so much fun. It's like, yeah, it's awesome.
And I'd have to say my favorite part of the show would have to be the solo that I got halfway through the year, where it's kind of, I get stripped by the drum line, I guess that's how you can put it, the metamorphosis part of it. It's really fun to play with the crowd on that part of the show. So
my favorite part of the show is probably Meta 3 now, because I've never spun Saber before this season, and it took 3 months of getting my butt handed to me on it and smashing my hand, and now I can finally do it.
I have to go with the ballad, because it's so different. Like, you know every drum corps ballad, your stock ballad, it's really soft, it's pretty, it gets loud. Ours is definitely different. It defied the drum corps standard.
Who knew a corps could take a music from a DJ and, turn it into a ballad?
I'd say the hit and the ballad. It's just kind of everything comes together. It's a constant groove. It's just a really fun part to play.
How it just builds and builds and builds and builds and builds. And then when you think it can't build anymore, it does. The ballad. The end of the ballad is definitely my favorite.
I love watching the horn line. Those simple arcs, the battery right behind them playing big, and then the front ensemble going to town on those runs at the end. I love that.
My favorite part of the show has always been the baritone vignette. Being a baritone player myself, I'm always a little partial to that, but if the show's going a little bit rough sometimes, we always get to the baritone vignette. I always take a deep breath and sigh, because I know the baritones will just lay it down, and they're always really solid on that.
My favorite part is the trumpet vignette, where we get to play fast, and I end on a high note.
I like the really aggressive approach of metaphor. I can feel their intensity.
I'd say let her into the end of the closer. Yeah. It's just the most high energy thing. Just gets us going every time.
Metaphor, right at the hit. I mean, people don't clap because they don't really get it, but just the music and the drill and like the 3 different time signatures going on, that's really cool.
Oh, definitely Metaphor. The ending of Metaphor is just breathtaking. I can't wait to see it on DVD.
All of that music is brings back all of the different melodies from the show. I'm not sure that everybody really knows that, but it does. And you begin to hear a little bit of everything, and the way that came together and the way that makes me feel when I just listen to it. I don't even have to actually be out there watching it. That's a musical moment to me that's great.
And everything that's changed, the drill changes, the music changes. It's just been a constant difference. And I think that's just been my favorite part, is it hasn't been the same from week to week. So it's been a good challenge.
So I'm Robert Ney. I marched Crossmen in 2003, 2004, 2006, and aged out in 2007. I played Contra all 4 years. And right now I'm actually a Human Resources Officer and currently Company Commander for 258 Human Resources Company out of Fort Riley, Kansas. What I'm here to talk about is like what kind of led, how drum corps kind of helped prepare me for the military. And for any of you that are interested in joining or have already joined, like my fellow veterans, this will give you kind of paint a little bit of a better picture. So the sense of belonging was one of the biggest reasons why I joined the military, and how drum corps as a whole kind of did that. Crossmen was a family to me. A lot of the people there came to my that I've known all my life were part of my wedding, came to my wedding. Still communicate to this day. And that sense of belonging is something I needed after I aged out of drum corps. I didn't know what to do with myself, so I ended up enlisting into the Air Force for about just over 6.5 years. And the thing about what Crossmen did for me as well is it gave me some confidence in myself. I was not really a proficient player when I first joined, and I knew that I could be taught, so it was one of those things I had to learn how to be confident. And going into formations and going through training, dealing with the drill sergeants like everyone does, and now with me dealing with higher echelons of command, the confidence has definitely helped me and shaped me to who I am. And I can really thank Crossmen actually for a lot of that, to be honest with you. And one of the biggest things what some people don't really go over with is actually the physical and emotional stress that I endured during drum corps, and how that actually helped me prepare for the military as well. Because for all of you that are looking to march or have marched, it's one of those, you know how physically taxing it is to do circle drills, 6 to 8, flying backups, you name it, or 6 to 5. Sorry, it's been a while. So you understand how physically taxing it can be, and for those of you that are veterans like me right now, that you understand that a lot of that stuff is very similar in terms of marching and everything. Drum corps helps you with the marching aspect, of course, but the physical taxation and learning how to exert yourself and overcome the stress, like especially when you're in a show and you're trying to make it in the finals. That's one of those things you have to learn how to overcome, and you learn that as a team, both at Crossmen and in the military. You can never do anything by yourself. There's no I in the military, and there's no I in drum corps. And the emotional stress part, and I'll close this video up really soon, but the emotional stress is also another one, because you're in drum corps, you're being home away from family. Military, you're home away from family. Back when I marched, cell phones weren't really a big thing. I had phone cards, I had to use pay phones. Now I have cell phones and everything. I had more technology now when I was deployed than I ever did in drum corps. We didn't even have we didn't even have camera phones. We had to use disposable cameras to get our photos taken. But the emotional stress of being away from family has really helped me adapt to my way of life now, and being away at Crossmen, being away from my family, learning how to survive with minimal funds and paying for drum corps. It's helped me to help me be the person I am today. And now I'm a commander leading over 75 soldiers, and then taking care of their families. And I can owe that all to drum corps and all the support I've ever gotten over the years. But for all those that are currently marching or wishing to march and looking to join the military, by all means, reach out to me anytime. But have a good one, everyone.
All right, and Rob Ney is just one of many Crossmen alumni who have served in the military. So he's one of many great points of contact if anyone out there is interested in joining one of the branches of the armed forces. So thank you, Rob, for that. And now, special announcement. Again, want to touch back on Bidding for Bones silent auction. Reminder that the deadline has been extended because of the Bones Nation really stepping up. So to give everyone an opportunity to finalize their bids, the extension is extended till 7 p.m. Central tonight. So as soon as we wrap up here in a few minutes, head on over to crossmen.org/auction to Bidding for Bones, finalize your bids. All the winners will be notified tomorrow, and then there will be a announcement full auction recap on Monday. So keep an eye out for that. So Jack, what do we have coming up next month?
Well, next month is December, and it will be close to Christmas when the show is. So guess what? Russian Christmas music. And we're calling the show The Spirit of Russian Christmas Music, or The Spirit of Russian, I guess, Russian Christmas. And what the show will be about is the inception of Russian, the song, the first time we played it, and the history of it. And then also the Spirit of Atlanta's connection to the Corps, since after all, the Corps does get together with them and play the mass brass thing afterwards. So we're going to tie that all together, and we're calling it The Spirit of Russian Christmas. So join us next month, the third Saturday, and I don't know.
Two of my favorite things.
I think I hear bells. So.
All right, and to wrap us up, we're going to turn to 2007 drum major age out Jarrett Lippman for some of his final thoughts, both recently as well as back in the day in 2007. So until next time, let's turn to Jarrett.
I'm Jack Brennicky, and he's
Josh Sears. See you next week.
See you next month.
I think my most proud moment was standing outside the Rose Bowl in 2007 with the drum corps after we finished the last performance. And the corps was fine. The show was good. It was early in the afternoon because of where we were in placement. And I can remember feeling more a sense of relief and pride that the corps had made it through the transition. It was kind of like the 30 of us that had stayed. You know, we used to ride Southwest down together, and I remember being in the airport and the whole change of having to travel when we used to be able to just drive to camps. And, you know, it was the third new corps director and the third staff change and the third administrative change. And we had all been there together since 2005, some 4 and some sooner. And so when we came off the field in California, we were singing The Water is Wide at the end. And I just remember everybody, you know, hanging tight and being so relieved and grateful that we had survived the transition. And Mark and Fred were so excited to be going home after their first drum corps summer. And they were so positive. And it was just one of those days where surviving the summer and making that transition happen. And when YEA finally divested the corps and we made the break, it was just it was a really special night to be a part of. And I was very, very, very proud of the corps and the fact that we had hung together and pulled through.
It's 12:30 in the morning on Saturday night, and it's my third year sitting in the stands on Saturday night. And I wouldn't have had it any other way being here. And there were a lot of other places that I thought about going and almost did. And I remember saying in the tour video last year, I wanted everyone to come back. And I am so happy that I did come back. And I say it again to anyone that's watching, you got to keep this thing going, because it will change you and it will always be a part of you. And, you know, I know how special it is to everybody, but it can't continue to be this special without people coming back and taking care of it and making sure that it can continue to be the Crossmen that has been so special to me and to everyone else. So those are my words. Just keep coming back if you can. You need to be here, and know that the family will take care of you.